looking at them longingly, and no doubt Sierra or Ethan, probably Ethan would tell Sierra, "No, Dad said no." And Sierra would be like, "I'm not going to eat them, I just want to look at them from over here." "No, Dad says don't eat them." "I'm not. Actually, I just want to smell them." It smells so good. We all know the scenario. Pretty soon it goes from looking to sniffing to wiping cookie crumbs off your face. Then it gets worse. One cookie. Bet you can't eat just one. 2 cookies, 3 cookies. And now you're beginning to notice in the bowl that cookies have been eaten. And Dad will be coming home soon. What do? Let's arrange them somehow so it doesn't look like we've eaten too many. And I know you all don't have to imagine. You've been there yourself a few times. Or 3 or 4 or 5. It's basically what happened with Adam and Eve. God created a utopian environment for Adam and Eve. Perfect. Everything not only that they wanted, but even things they couldn't even imagine God had prepared for them that they had no idea about. Every last need and want that they ever had was at their disposal. It was perfect. But yet, it was that one tree that seemed to prick the curiosity of Eve like none other. Question I've asked on a number of occasions, and I wasn't always comfortable with this answer. If God knew that by presenting this option, meaning this tree, in the middle of the garden, knowing full well, having prior knowledge that Eve would do what she did, and then in turn Adam would do what he did, why did God initiate this plan and then carry it out? Knowing full well what it was going to cost him in the long run. You know, imagine this. I'm going to back up just a little bit. God is creating all of creation. And it comes down to this crowning element of creation and decides to make man. So he kneels down and begins to form man out of the dust of the ground. He forms his feet, his legs, his torso, his chest. Works up his shoulders, begins to form his face, his hands, his fingers. And he looks down at man and he's this perfect form. God's handiwork. No matter how good you all think you look, we've been dealing with 6,000 years of degeneration. The Adam that God originally created was about 18 feet tall. The perfect specimen, we've kind of gotten shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and older and uglier since then. God initiated this perfect human being. But right before, mind you, God knowing everything as it's happening, both prior and future and present, looks down at this lifeless form of dirt. And as he reaches to blow into this lifeless dirt the breath of life, to make it a living creature, Jesus pauses for just a moment. I know we've talked about this, Father and I. We have big plans for mankind. But if I could blow life into this lump of dirt, 4,000 years from now, I'm going to be hanging on a cross for people who don't even care. All right, I'll do it. And he breathes down into Adam, and Adam becomes becomes a living force, and his eyes open. He takes that very first breath, and he looks at Jesus. Man, can you imagine? Your first breath, your eyes open, and you're looking into the eyes of Jesus. And Jesus is now looking back into the eyes of Adam and appreciating the fact that Adam is seeing everything for the first time, this wonderful, perfect world that he has created just for Adam. And Adam is filled with this incredible sense of exhilaration, and he doesn't even know what's going on because he's only been alive for 5 minutes. But it's been a very cool 5 minutes. And all the while that Adam is walking around and talking and looking at the animals and just wondering about this new, crazy world that he's in, Jesus recognizes that he has now placed in motion events that are going to lead to his own crucifixion on a cross. But he still went through it because of love. The reason that Jesus put that tree in the very middle of the garden is that even as God appreciates the concept of love, he also values the idea of choice. And God did not want a bunch of Christian automatons following him simply because there were no other options. He did not want these robotic yes men and yes women worshiping him simply because he was the only available God to worship. By placing the tree in the middle of the garden forever, a choice was now available for Adam and Eve to give their love and allegiance back to God based on a choice that they're making. Remember, God values choice. And he would never make any of us do anything we didn't of our own free will want to do. God doesn't manipulate. God doesn't twist. God doesn't spin. God doesn't present one thing and hit you with another. You aren't looking fastball and then he throws a curve. God is always a straight shooter, and he gives you the opportunity to reject him. And the beautiful thing about God is that even when we reject him, his love for us does not change. God's a big God. He can take a whole lot. We can't really even offend him too much with some of our ridiculous behavior. He will just love us all that much more. And he says, the reason why I'm putting this tree in the middle of the garden is because I want you to love me by choice, not by force. If I married my wife simply because she was the only woman on the face of the earth, well, I'm sure she'd be grateful, but, well, what are my options? Well, I'm not going to go there with my options, but if there's a whole bunch of other women in the sea, fish they call them, and I was fortunate enough for my wife to say yes to me, it's based not only on a choice that I made, but a choice that she made as well. If you knew that your spouse was with you only because they had to be, if somebody kidnaps your spouse's family and had them in a basement somewhere at gunpoint, and the reason that your wife was with you or your husband was with you was only to save her family, but only to make things more comfortable, you would realize that her love for you is not based on pure commitment, but an angle someplace. Not real love at all. But God wanted us to reciprocate the love he has to us back to him based on our own choice. Now, was there a risk? A huge risk. In fact, he risked his life just to give us the opportunity to choose. And of course, we chose wrong. The Bible says, remember, homework assignment, Genesis 1 through 4. And you'll find this in there. The Bible says that Eve was deceived by Satan. That Adam sinned. Eve was duped by Satan. Basically tricked. And wasn't completely aware of all the ramifications of what was happening as a result of her eating this apple. You've heard me use the illustration before. If there was a 52-inch flat-screen plasma television right next to the tree, And Eve was having got an opportunity to see the results of what her actions would be.